Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel Long. I'm the regular moderator here for the Asian Century Philippines Strategic Studies Institute think tank. Today is October 31, 2025, the last day of October. We hope you're doing well. Thank you to everyone who's watching us on Facebook and YouTube and in the Zoom also after the replay. Please send in your questions. We'll try to get to many of them as we can. Today's forum, 15-year plan, impact on Philippine-China ties, ASEAN +3 summit, BBM isolated, and report on the SARA Singapore OFW visit. So Kamentong Laurel will be the first to speak, and he will give us position paper on China's 15-year, China's 5-year plan and what it means for diplomatic relations between the Philippines and China. Let us welcome Kamentong Laurel for his opening remarks.
Magandang umaga po sa lahat. Oktubre 31 po itong araw na to. Our first media forum for this month of October because we have been very busy last August. Out-of-town seminars and congresses on the issues that we are focused on. It was very exhausting and I also suffered some ailments after that. But I'm fully recovered and we're also fully organized again to focus on the major issues that confront the nation. This past 2 weeks, we have witnessed 2 very significant regional and international summits. The ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur and right now the APEC summit being held in Busan, South Korea. Unfortunately, in the Philippines, there is not sufficient intelligent discussion of these issues. There is, of course, we are aware that deliberate sowing of confusion in our information sphere in the country. Itatagalog ko na po, talagang sadya pong binubulabog ang ating mundo dito sa loob ng Pilipinas sa impormasyon. At pinofocus po sa away ng mga paksyon sa lipunan at ang ating mainstream media malaking kasalanan sa mga ito dahil po sila ay kontrolado ng mga pinansyal na interes na talagang nagtataguyod po ng kasalukuyang korap na sistema. Hindi lang po politiko ang korap, kundi ang naghaharing financial oligarchy ay konsyaba po ng korap na politiko. And siyempre sa likod po niya ng Western financial oligarchy. Kaya po napansin po natin yung mga investigasyon sa corruption sa Kongreso ay inilipat sa lehitimo pinaniniwalaan na Blue Ribbon Committee under the independent chairman Senator Marcoleta at inililipat sa ICI, the Infrastructure Commission, Investigative Commission on Infrastructure na binisita pa ng American Embassy representative. So, yun po ay pagbibigay ng bendisyon sa cover-up na ginagawa ng Investigative Commission on Infrastructure na binuo ng Bongbong Marcos administration para itago po sa paningin ng taong bayan ang mga talagang salarin dito sa trillion peso corruption scandals po. But yung dalawang tinutukoy ko pong events the past 2 weeks are the ASEAN meeting and the APEC meeting. But before that, which both of them will be handled also by Kaado Pagdinawan, I would like to focus on a globally significant event, which is China's 15th 5-year plan and the Philippine response. Alam po natin na yung 5-year plans ng China ay isang historic success at nagbigay ng tagumpay sa China na sa loob ng 75 taon yung kanilang ekonomiya ay naging numero 1 pinakamalaking ekonomiya sa mundo sa loob ng 75 na taon. It took the West 500 years to reach industrialization and the level of wealth they have today. 500 years. At sa pamamaraan, through the means of colonization, exploitation, oppression, but China achieved what they have achieved and surpassed the Western economies today after 75 years through, not through conquest, but through trade, technology, and innovation. So we should give due recognition to the Communist Party of China for its astounding success. I have prepared a formal paper on this matter, and so I'll just read through it formally, as is our job as a think tank group. Okay. China's 15th five-year plan and China's periodic, well, let's show our first chart here. China's periodic five-year economic development plans have become legendary among nations of the world. Since its first in 1953 to 1957 to its 14th, China's five-year economic plans have guided economic and technological growth to make China the world's largest economy by power purchase parity, and technological growth to make China the world's largest economy within a short span of 75 years. A churn world hundreds of years to attain through conquest and oppression. So yan po ang graphic illustration. And in the year 2024, China contributed 30% to global GDP. So it is a major power and a major factor in the global economy, which the Philippines is missing out on. The 14th five-year economic plan, yung nakaraan po, achieved GDP surpassing 130 trillion yuan and annual growth averaging 5.5% despite the impositions of various hurdles on it by Trade War 1.0 and Trade War 2.0, forging ahead and contributing 30% to global economic growth, increasing exports to other non-Western nations while benefiting the global South with higher imports from Africa, Latin America, and ASEAN. The global South has been upliftment, poverty reduction, innovation, and infrastructure cooperation. China's 15th five-year economic plan for economic and social development, that's the, while the 2025 to 2023 plan is very detailed, is a very detailed set of economic and social goals in five-year economic plan are clearly set out. It is important to understand that there is a set of fundamental guidelines to be considered. That, upholding the party's overall leadership, putting the people first, pursuing comprehensively deepening reform, promoting interplay between an efficient market and a well-functioning government, and ensuring both development and security. Now, I'm putting emphasis on this because the 15th five-year plan is so comprehensive. It takes hundreds of pages to go through, to read through the entire presentation. But without a guiding party, it will only because of the efficient, effective leadership of the Communist Party of China and a unifying value. Yung pagkakaisa po nila ay batay po doon sa pangalawang puntos dito. Putting the people first. Unlike America, it puts the financial oligarchy first, the financial class, the capitalist class. Unlike in the Philippines, it puts the privileged class first. China is very clear that it puts their people first. Leadership is of utmost importance. Without leadership, nothing can be accomplished. The people as the highest value in one purpose. Reform is constant to keep pace with the new developments and high-quality advances, fulfill rising expectations. Social market system which maintains the balanced dynamics of society, while order and social safety is assured. Over and above all these is the crystal clarity of ideological correctness, which is part of leadership. The objectives of China's 15th five-year plan generally, because there are so many details, I'll just go through some of the crucial ones. The many sources reporting on the objectives of China's 15th five-year plan focus on the technological targets, the major point of contention between China and the Western economies. Hence, many focus on the following to develop, quote, new quality productive forces, significant advancements in high quality development, substantial improvement in scientific and technological self-reliance and strength, fresh breakthroughs in further deepening reform comprehensively. For many of our people, this may sound all too abstract because we're so far down the technological ladder. But this is what is allowing China to forge ahead. These are in particular technologies including clean energy, intelligent connected new energy vehicles, new materials, humanoid robots, advanced manufacturing, AI, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, and ensuring supply chain. If we can show the next slide. And ensuring supply chains resilience and advancing scientific research and talent cultivation. Talent cultivation. So that's very vital. The educational system, the guidance of the educational system towards technology and innovation, which is something the Philippines has absolutely nothing of. China is also opening up to foreign talents, giving visa privileges to foreign talents migrating to China to participate and contribute to China's technological innovation, as well as to become globally competitive in aerospace industries and biotechnology and pharmaceuticals. So the objectives and the targets are very clear. The range of China's five-year plan technology simply mind-boggling. So you get a copy of this in your paper. But other aspects of society are also emphasized, such as cultural and ethical progress across society, further improvements in quality of life. Remember, they're very conscious of improving the quality of life of their people. Major in advancing the Beautiful China initiative, meaning creating a beautiful, environmentally sound and refreshing China, which means creating a sustainable and environmentally friendly nation, reducing pollutants, achieving carbon neutrality, promoting green development, and conserving the ecosystem. Food security through increasing grain output, promoting agricultural innovation and technology. These are among the goals of the five-year plan. China's successful five-year plan injects global confidence. In the turbulent economic and trade time brought about by the tariff and kinetic wars, China's continuing economic growth and continuing push of free trade and open trade provides a hope of stability and continuity of global economic progress. China was the provider for 30% of global economic growth in the period of the 14th five-year plan. It is expected that the 15th five-year economic and social plan will provide the same and even more growth, predictability, and stability in the next 5 years. So I presented this slide from Global Times. While pursuing its own modernization, China is also contributing wisdom and solutions to tackle humanity's development challenges, thereby making the value of development a common language that connects China with the world. Well, I have a personal note to bring up here. I have already started solarizing my own home, which would eventually reduce my 15,000 peso monthly electricity bill down maybe to 1,000 or 2,000. I wish every Filipino home would be solarized. Why are we allowing our financial elite to control it and profit it? And we are the ones financing it, the feed-in tariff. But that is the difference between the capitalist system and the socialist system. China has been the provider of global public good prices to the emerging economy and exports to the Chinese market of 800 million new middle-class consumers, which are targeted by the 15th five-year plan for increasing median Chinese incomes to $12,000 per capita. That's over 600,000 pesos, tama ba? Which redounds to greater demands for goods, fine food, and services, including outbound tourism, which will energize exporting economies while boosting self-sufficiency. I've tried to identify here areas of Philippine-China cooperation. There is no denying from any quarter in the Philippines that the Philippines is in serious economic and financial crisis. Philippine national debt, we can flash some of the slides now, has reached a record high of 17.58 trillion pesos as of July 2025. Government, in the midst of its scandal of the century, has precipitated a drop in government revenues, while the overall trade deficit continues to deteriorate as the U.S. tariff war threatens to demolish the Philippine exports to the U.S. with a blanket tariff of 19% for imports to the U.S. A few graphs will demonstrate the crisis. This first graph shows the GDP per capita in Southeast Asia in 2024. You can see the Philippines is number 7, the last among the original ASEAN organizers, and ahead only of Cambodia, small countries, Laos, Timor-Leste, and Myanmar. Yan lang po ang nilalamangan ng Pilipinas sa GDP per capita in Southeast Asia in 2024. Let me read the difference between, I won't even mention Singapore's per capita income anymore. Malaysia's per capita income is $13,315,000 per capita per annum. Thailand is $7,841. Indonesia is $5,271. Ang Pilipinas po ay $4,626. This is according to CAC, Southeast Asia Statistics Institute. 2025 will be even worse for the Philippines, as we see in the chart in the stock market below. Performances of ASEAN countries. The next chart. So you can see again here, Singapore on top with $1.202 billion. Thailand, $1.3 billion. Vietnam, $1.058 billion. Trillion ba? Trillion ito ata. Check. Indonesia, $0.91 billion. Philippines, $0.10 billion. 0.1 billion. So that's how far we are in terms of investments. No matter how bad the economic and financial crisis, the Bongbong Marcos government is clearly not able to acknowledge it. See, distance from the United States of America and its schizophrenic trade and geopolitical policies that offer no benefit to the Philippines and instead exploits its trade and security vulnerability. But already we are seeing saner heads steer the country back to restoring balance and normalcy with China. So this is the headline that I wanted to show. Philippine Embassy in Beijing to launch e-visas for Chinese nationals in November, meaning starting tomorrow. Joshua, the slide. Joshua is absent from this. The next slide, Joshua. Next slide. The November 2025 relaunching of e-visa for Chinese visitors to the Philippines is a signal that conscientious government officials who recognize the urgency of reviving economic ties are moving to re-establish cooperation. There is also an initiative emanating from the same department moving to establish talks between the Chinese Coast Guard and the Philippine Coast Guard for renewed cooperation and address maritime issues. The diplomatic tools may even open cooperation for the Philippines to benefit from the coming China boom from its 15th five-year economic and social development plan. Some of the areas where Philippine-China cooperation can resume, but I highlighting it with this change of China announcing that Chinese scientists have created rice that grows in sea, potentially feeding 200 million more people by 2030. Now, this is something that the Philippines can really benefit from. I put it here. In agriculture, China has developed brackish water rice breeds that have shown to yield up to 4.6 tons per hectare. This is something the Philippines can take advantage of and benefit tremendously from, being the largest rice importing country in the world. Digital and ICT, information communication technology, the Philippines and China have existing MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings on these two technological areas. Infrastructure, the resumption of the long-delayed essential transportation infrastructure to promote trade and commerce, such as the 1,100-kilometer Mindanao Circumferential Rail, the PNR Long-Haul South Luzon Project, restoration of funding for the Clark-Subic Railway, among others, which the present Department of Transportation is struggling to find funds for after canceling China funds. In sustainable development, climate solutions and renewable energy, as well as green transition, China is now the world's leader in solar, wind, other renewable energy. It has pioneered in small modular nuclear power and thorium nuclear reactors. Thorium, an element which the Philippines possesses. Tourism. This is an area that can spur immediate infusion of much needed dollars into the Philippine economy, but requires, over and above the e-visa, the re-establishment of goodwill and restoration of mutual respect and amity between the two peoples. These are just some of the areas of cooperation from the coming China boom arising from its 15th five-year economic and social development plan. I will just respond to questions after all the presentations are made. So I will yield my place to Danny Long or Adolf.
Thank you, Kamentong, for your report that mainstream media refuses or has neglected to cover on China's very ambitious 5-year plan for the 15th time and what it means for our country. Next, to give us a presentation is Kaado Paglinawan on the ASEAN Plus 3 recent summit just concluded and what it means for the Philippines' position in the region. Let us welcome Kaado Paglinawan for his remarks.
When Kamento mentioned that the Chinese scientists have created rice that grow in seawater, I told Danny Long beside me, hindi uubre yan dito sa Pilipinas. Natawa si. Alam mo bakit? Walang kickback sa irrigation. Irrigated na kasi. Anyway, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ang presentation ko po ngayon ay elaboration ng aking Facebook post 2 days ago, which in 12 hours hit more than 60,000 likes, 4.7 thousand comments, and more than 7,000 shares. Ang title po ay, ng first part, ay Marcos shames China at ASEAN, but Trump leaves no dog food for his ASCAL. Alam po ninyo mga kabansa, maraming hindi nakakalam sa atin kung ano ang ASEAN Plus 3. At doon sa ASEAN Summit, nagkaroon din ng ASEAN Plus 1, Japan. And of course, the ASEAN proper, which now hosts 11 members with the addition of Timor-Leste. So ito pong ASEAN of the regular ASEAN summits, where ASEAN intramurals are discussed within the confines of its 11 members. But ASEAN, to take advantage of gathering of 10 to 11, now 11, heads of government and heads of state, wanted to maximize, so gumawa sila ng ASEAN Plus 3. And this involves China. They invite China. They invite Japan and South Korea. Ang drivers of urgency po dyan ay for China, Japan, and South Korea. Basically, rapid growth, deepening economic ties offer significant opportunities as trading partners and investments, destinations, and the need to diversify from over-reliance on specific markets, katulad ng China or Korea, for instance. Ang aim nila is to reduce dependence on China. Lalo-lalo na after nagkaroon ng THAAD crisis that resulted in substantial economic damage for South Korean businesses. Ito po yung mga THAAD missile defense system may pinasok. Alam niyo naman ang number one negosyo ng mga Amerikano, gera. So nagpasok po sila amidst perceived threats on North Korea ng mga THAAD missile defense system near the border of South Korea and North Korea. Eh dahil po doon, no, nagkaroon ng reaction ng China and nagkaroon ng increase within Korea ng anti-China sentiment sa South Korea. And more strategic realignment for South Korea towards the US and other regional partners. Para po kasing ano yan pendulum. Kung minsan pro-US yung naka-elect na presidente ng South Korea, kung minsan pro-unification. So, depende po kung saan nagsuswing ang pendulum. At nung mag-swing ang pendulum towards the US, sinamantala ng US na magbenta ng maraming THAAD missiles sa Korea. While both countries eventually normalized relations, the dispute exacerbated existing tensions. We agreed to strengthen our cooperation in important areas to grow together, especially cybersecurity, maritime security, AI, digital and green technologies. And Japan hopes to strengthen relations with ASEAN as trusted partners and promote a free and open Indo-Pacific. Now, pag narinig niyo yung free and open Indo-Pacific, yan yung mga aktibidades ng Japan insofar as they are an ally of the United States. By the way, alam niyo ba na sa Japan, walang binabayarang base militar o serbisyo ang Amerikano. Lahat charged to the Japanese taxpayer. On top of that, kabibenta lang ng 400 Tomahawk missiles ng US sa Japan. So mararamdaman nyo that so far as Korea and Japan, South Korea and Japan is concerned, medyo may halong scent ng gera at armaments. At kaya yan pinipilit ng Amerikano na guluhin ng Taiwan. Gusto niya magkaroon ng triad of buyers into the war economy of the US. Kasama na ang Taiwan. But that is a separate matter altogether. For China naman, itong plus 3 na ito, ang China ang pinakamalaki ngayong trading partner since 2020 ng ASEAN. So it offers a way to offset the impact of the US China. Bakit? Yung maapektuhan ng China would want to expand to ASEAN, and ASEAN would want to increase trade with US. Pabalansin niya. Sabi ni Wang Wenbin, the Chinese ambassador to Cambodia, ASEAN is a priority neighborhood diplomacy. ASEAN should have an impact on Philippine relations also. Work to build China-ASEAN free trade and Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, yung RCEP, providing more stability and certainty to the community of the and South Korea and the Southeast Asian sub-regions. We all belong to the East Asia region. So yan po yung neighborhood natin. Kaya yung word na neighborhood diplomacy made an impact sa akin nung ako'y nag-aaral tungkol dito. Pagdating naman po sa supply chain integration and resilience, yung integration ng ASEAN industrial and supply chain offers potential benefits for all parties against external shocks such as geopolitical tensions or economic downturns. Sa economics po kasi at saka sa negosyo, yung option for opportunities should be as wide as possible. In terms of geopolitical competition, there is a growing competition between China and other powers for economic influence in Southeast Asia. Siyempre, hindi pa nga nababanggit dito ang Europe, gusto rin sumausaw sa ASEAN ang Europe. Because really, this century, sabi nga ng pangalan ng ating think tank, is the Asian century. Ito pong East Asia na ito. No? Northeast at Southeast will be the major engine in this century. Nandito po lahat eh. Yung population. Alam niyo po ba na pag ang Indonesia at Philippines na combine halos kalahating milyon tao na yan. Isang kalahating bilyon tao na yan. Ang China naman 1.4 billion. Can you imagine that? That is why definitely even India gravitates towards this region of ours. Para yung 1.5 billion niya maging leverage niya sa trade, technology. At nandito rin po ang mga sa technology, yung mga matitinik, no? Taiwan, China, mga Korea, Japon, no? Dati kasama tayo dyan, pero I don't know what happened. Para naman po sa ASEAN, a community blueprint seeking participation with the larger economies of the Northeast Asia. Yung tatlo ay crucial to achieve these goals and boost regional competitiveness. In fact, ito lang region natin eh. If we get our act together, masusustain na natin ang ating regional stability and growth. Closer economic cooperation will build more unified and robust ASEAN bloc which can negotiate more effectively with larger global economic players, especially when it comes to Europe that has so masyadong varied ang mga interests and strengths and weaknesses, masyadong varied. And of course, collaborative projects na kaya nga nagkaroon ng ASEAN Plus 3, no? Initiative. Cooperation on issues like food security, disaster response, and capacity building. And last, access to capital and technology. Yung tatlong countries na inimbita natin to dialogue with ASEAN provides access to vital capital, technology, and investment that can be self-sustaining. Mayayaman ito mga ito eh. Para sa especially the region's industrialization and development. So yun po yung background on what is this APT is all about, the ASEAN Plus 3. At bago po maganap yan, I was very positive, especially with the incorporation of Timor-Leste, the attendance of not only the three, but also nagkaroon pa ng ASEAN plus Japan, plus 1. Nagkakaroon lang gano'n eh. At saka ASEAN plus the US. So kita ninyo, ang energy is papasok dito sa ASEAN. Especially learning the very arduous preparation that Anwar Ibrahim, who was the rotational chairman, was doing. Kasi bago nagkaroon ng summit, umiikot po si Anwar Ibrahim, talagang he was rallying for, hindi lang participation, kundi enthusiasm, no? Until something happened along the way. Alam po ninyo, katatapos ko lang ang isang South Korean telenovela. Ang title po The Haunted Palace, na nag-air noong April hanggang June. At dito ko nakita yung reign ni King Sejong, the seventh monarch who ruled the Joseon dynasty of Korea from 1455 to 68. The fictional drama revolved around the love story of a shaman and an emoji, an ancient serpent, in their battle to protect the royal bloodline from the vicious attacks of a vengeful spirit. Yung bloodline nila earlier was invaded by a vengeful spirit na nagpuposes ng mga members ng royalty. I did not anticipate that our president, Ferdinand Romualdez Marcos Jr., will bring along with him one such vengeful spirit from Malacanang Pass, where he resides, and use the ASEAN Plus 3 Summit in Kuala Lumpur as an occasion to pick a fight against one of ASEAN's invited guests from the north, the People's Republic of China. This was an occasion for diplomacy and not a gripe session. Members, may mga bisita. It is basic good manners and right conduct not to shame any invited guests anywhere. That is not just an Oriental virtue. That is a universal value of hospitality. Especially in the presence of other heads of state and heads of government gathered for constructive pursuits. Besides, it is only the Philippines that have issues with China and the South China Sea that are not being addressed quietly through diplomatic channels. Outgoing ASEAN Chairman Anwar Ibrahim gave a timely response. If you have problems with China, sabi ni Anwar, don't put the pressure on us. Once again, Marcos has succeeded in isolating na magtapo ng pizza na makapagsisira pa ng karta. Panuhurin niyo yung video. Feel ko lang, constipated si Lazaro sa mga sinabi ng ating Pangulo. Pakita natin yung ito. Pwede ba natin i-play itong screenshot? Ha? 1 minute lang, yung up to 1:04. Hindi yan. Well, anyway, while technical is preparing, Marcos did not directly name China in his intervention, but said Manila is deeply concerned over the dangerous maneuvers and coercive actions that interfere with legitimate Philippine activities in the West Philippine Sea. Ginamit niya ang ASEAN, a forum for regional diplomacy, to criticize what he alleged as China's illegal, quote-unquote, activities in the South China Sea. Dangerous maneuvers and coercive actions. He just swept it along the way. He did not cement by US Embassy in Manila. Hindi ko nabibigay yung mga detalya. Ito po. He was talking about US being a co-chair of ASEAN for enhancing shipping and seafares for co-chairing to combat illegal fishing, collaborating with the US on transnational crime, value of the US trade and investment facilitation, and promoting people-to-people exchanges with the US. And he said, ASEAN's joint vision for the US for peace and prosperity. So, the incoming ASEAN chairman is actually acting as the US puppet in the ASEAN. And that will be what 2006 will look like. These are his words, not mine. Yung huli, he welcomed the adoption of an ASEAN-United States joint vision statement, calling it a strategic framework that aligns with ASEAN's long-term vision and strengthens collaboration for peace, stability, and prosperity in the region. Mamamayani, hindi ang Pilipinas sa 2006, kundi ang mga US interest sa ASEAN by his own unabashed
2026.
admission sa 2026. So hindi lang sa tuta ng Amerikano dito sa Pilipinas, kasi ng Amerikano sa ASEAN. Kaya pala, parang constipated si Secretary Lazaro sa likod niya. Sa aking Facebook, sabi niya, pinanood ko naman yung buong session, wala naman ako nakita objectionable. Eh sabi ko, kasi Australian ka. There you go. The incoming chair of ASEAN for 2006 has served advance notice to the organization that this will be his platform for 2006. As a psychopath and agent of the United States for the latter's Indo-Pacific ambitions. Our president was clearly showing off his canine devotion to President Donald Trump as the American front act. Okay lang yan. Yan ang gusto niya. Pero mga kabansa, ang masakla, despite sa sip-sip niya, hindi siya pinansin ni Trump. Eh bakit siya papansinin? Siyempre may nagsabi na kay Trump on his way to Kuala Lumpur. Naku, sir, yung tuta nyo, ito pinagsasabi nito. Inaatake yung China. Ha? At saka pala yung sahod sa inyo. And why not? And why not? Bakit siya hindi i-ignore ni Trump? When Marcos visited Trump in Washington, D.C., the U.S. President even advised him in open television to make friends with China if it would serve as the Philippines' best interest. And from that time on, Trump has been walking on eggshells dahil nga dito sa mga tariff wars. Nagkaroon ng 6 years gap na hindi nakikita si Trump at si Xi Jinping. At yesterday, may schedule sila. E tapos itong ginagawa ng bata niya sa ASEAN, ha? Endangering. E pupunta si Trump din para sa Nobel Prize niya. Pinagbati niya ang Cambodia at saka Thailand eh. Ha? Gumawa pa siya ng square. Sinama niya ang Malaysia. Trump the peace builder. At hindi lang yun. So itong catch-up kahapon was being endangered by his psychopath. Eh, hindi pwedeng endanger ni Trump yan. High-stakes encounter unfolding amid escalating trade frictions and global economic uncertainty, specifically between China and the US. The last time the two leaders met face-to-face was during Trump's first term. Kaya ingat na ingat si Trump. Sabi ko nga, walking on eggshells. A renewed engagement, according to U.S. officials, aims to rebuild a fragile trade truce, which news yesterday showed na medyo nakahinga ng kaunti. Nagkaroon ng parang 1-year ceasefire between China and the U.S. Kaya nung kinakamayan ni Bongbong si Trump, biglang nagpunta si Trump nung Sultan of Brunei. Umiwas. Baka makunan sila magkatabi. Makita ni Xi Jinping. Masira ang araw ni Xi Jinping. Ay, nako. Baka pagdating sa Seoul, ay hindi na. Iba na ang timpla ng Chinese president. Alam niyo naman na nangyari, di ba? Yung regulation and supply of rare earth elements of the West, which according to an Arizona scientist, Yung production, okay lang. 2-3 years, kaya yan. Maraming sources. Pero yung refinery will take 29 years now para makahabol sa China. Trump's cameo role in Kuala Lumpur was more than a public relations appeasement of China by befriending ASEAN, a soft part of China, but a calculated pre-staging of his meeting with President Xi in Korea. So, anong ginawa ni Trump? He slapped Marcos big time and denied him any dog food. Instead, Trump announced a new trade agreement granting a zero import tariff exemption to 3 Southeast Asian countries, Thailand, Malaysia, and Cambodia, removing the 19% previously imposed on the 3 nations. These countries are not security treaty allies of the U.S. We are. We have the Mutual Defense Treaty since 1951. They do not host 9 EDCA, Defense Cooperation Agreement bases, and 16 other facilities to justify American presence. And we have been waiting since February 2023 for the delivery of the United States pledge of $100 million a year for 5 years. Kayong mga nakikinig na members of the Armed Forces of the Philippines, meron na po bang dumating na modernization package mula nung naupo si Bongbong Marcos na hindi nasimulan ni Noynoy Aquino at ni Rodrigo Duterte? Meron na po bang dumating? Wala pa. 5 years yan, 100 million per year times 5 years is 500 million to assist modernization of military. Sa palagay niyo po ba kayong mga sundalo, kayong mga general, kayong mga opisyal, may darating pa kay pinakita ni Bongbong Marcos sa pag-iwas ni Trump sa kanya sa Kuala Lumpur? Your guess is as good as mine. For now, we pay 100% tariff on microchip products and 19% on everything else to export to the U.S., while the U.S. pays 0 to export to the Philippines. Yan ba ang reciprocity of a treaty ally? Yan ba ang ironclad commitment? Parang ang ibig sabihin yata ng ironclad commitment, ironclad, hindi kayo aangal, miski bigyan namin kayo ng mag-asawang sampal. Miski pabayaan namin kayo. The Malaysians, the Thai, and the Cambodians got the bacon while Marcos returned home empty-handed. I would like to quote retired Admiral Joel Garcia of the Philippine Coast Guard, who said, "Whoever advised the president and crafted his remarks for the summit appears to have a very shallow understanding of foreign relations and geopolitics. What have we gained out of that megaphone stunt? Rather than build alliances, we may have isolated ourselves, further earning apathy, worse, amusement. In geopolitics, being loud does not make you strong. It just makes everyone notice how weak and nervous you are." Kawawa ang bansa. Puro Boy Scouts at Girl Scouts ang nakapaligid kay PBBM. And if I may add, worse, after demonizing China with fabricated charges, Marcos announces a day after that he is inviting Xi Jinping to visit Manila sometime soon. Sa hula nyo ba, pauunlakan tayo ng Chinese president? I mean, hello? Ano ka ba, Marcos? Reincarnation ka ba ni Robinson Crusoe? Washed up unto your own desolate shore? Maawa ka naman sa taong bayan. Tatapusin ko ang presentation ko dito sa portion na ito at yung mga iba pang gusto kong sabihin siguro sa open forum na lang idudugtong mamaya. Salamat po.
Hello. Okay. Thank you, Kado, for your presentation. Again, if you have any questions, our media friends and those watching from Facebook and YouTube and in Zoom, please send them. We'll get to them later during the open forum. Next, I will be the one to give a presentation. Good morning. My name is Daniel Long. Again, I'm the regular moderator for the Asian Century Philippines Strategic Studies Institute think tank, also a columnist for the Asian Century Journal, entitled The Long and the Short of It. Also, thanks to Kamentong Laurel, I've written 2 articles for the Manila Times newspaper. Initially, I had prepared a few remarks for today's forum, but I decided to go off script. So we're raw dogging it. Last week, thanks to the material support of Kamentong Laurel and the Asian Century Philippines, I and the DDS Sara All Federation, led by Ma'am Dang Imperial, and the VIP-SD, the voices of individuals of the Philippines for sustainable development. I visited Singapore for 4 days, realistically for 3 days, to attend the 10-year anniversary of Singphil. Singphil is a Singapore-based company which provides direct access to live shows and entertainment services, event services for the global Filipino community, particularly in Singapore. In Singapore, there are 200,000 overseas Filipino workers, and the event was a Thanksgiving for the Filipino community in Singapore. We had the Honorable Vice President Sara Duterte as the guest of honor. During the first day, we were at the launching of the NDM Independent Filipino Film Artists Forum, celebrating 25 years. This is the NDM Expo. In attendance was, of course, the OFW leaders in Singapore, as well as Duterte senators, Attorney Jimmy Bondoc, Attorney J.B. Hinlo, and myself. Of course, the Vice President was also there. My first impression of Singapore, since it was my first time to visit, was that it is a highly urbanized country. They call it the Garden City. And it was Lee Kuan Yew, the leader of Singapore's vision that the country be a hybrid. It took him a lot of political will to bring down a lot of the high-rise buildings and turn it into a hybrid of environmentally friendly and industrialized society. So I was there in Singapore for 4 days. Second day, October 25th, was the main event. This is, of course, as you see, the Philcom organizers in Singapore get together. Attorney Vic Rodriguez, as well as Senator Robin Padilla, also attended the event. The laws in Singapore made it such that many of the speakers had to modify what they had to say because Singaporean laws forbid Singaporean citizens and foreigners from participating in, inciting, political rallies, political slogans, and fiery political speeches, because in Singapore they prioritize development. Their form of democracy is not the democracy that causes obstruction and delay and endless debate, but rather towards a vision for development and rapid growth without political bickering and intense partisanship. What stood out to me during this event was meeting our kababayans, our hardworking OFWs in Singapore. Many of them, they came to Singapore for a better life, not because they don't love our country, but because the system in this country has failed them, and that's what motivated them to go to Singapore. As Kamentong earlier presented, Singapore is the highest GDP in ASEAN. My other observation of Singapore is that the people are well disciplined. Everyone in their private vehicles, even in public transportation like taxis, they wear their seat belts. I haven't noticed litter on the floor in the streets. Of course, the public transportation system was very efficient. The subway, the buses, the trains run on time. Vice President herself pointed out that the Philippines should emulate Singapore's urban planning. We were not able to give political speeches, so the Vice President just opted to give Thanksgiving for the OFW who supported during the recent elections, the Duterte candidates, as well as their continued support for the Duterte family. Of course, this event comes at the heels of the International Criminal Court's twin decision in rejecting the defense. The defense's two requests: one, to grant interim release for the former president Duterte, and number two, to oust the jurisdiction of the ICC. The first decision is already final. The latter decision is already final. The ICC maintains that they have jurisdiction over the person of the former president. But the first decision is still under appeal, in that Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, who is the lead counsel for the defense of Duterte, is still going to appeal the decision of the ICC to not grant interim release for the former president. there were about 450 people in the main event who attended, plus the organizers. We had 50 marshals to watch over for security, as well as the medic. Big shout out to Mr. Marlon, who was the MC. He gave us a shout out, as well as our think tank, the Asian Century Philippines Strategic Studies Institute. Well, I took a Grab taxi in Singapore. Then there was this lady who was asking me where did I come from the airport. When she picked me up at the airport, she said, I'm from the Philippines. She said, oh, I've been there. And she would ask me what's happening to the country. There's systemic corruption that's being highlighted now, but it's really been around for a very long time. And many Filipinos who travel abroad have the same experience with me. We love our country, but it's very difficult to defend what the government is doing. And it paints a bad picture. It makes us look bad in the international scene and in the region. The demographics of Singapore are very diverse in that they practice multiculturalism very well. The people assimilate. I've seen Christians, Muslims, Filipinos, Malays, even Chinese coexisting with one another. The cities are very walkable, so you could go from one place to another without taking private transportation or even public transportation if you're up for walking. The people are very disciplined. That's what I've noticed. And they go about their day. They don't waste people's time. And it's very digitalized. Very digitalized. Many payments are done through online banking, online payments. Digitalization is also one of the things that I believe that this country should emulate. During the Thanksgiving event, the Vice President, Sara Duterte, was telling us a story about how she was in the market. Then she discovered this product called the crocodile oil. And this product would make your skin glow, would improve your health, personal health. And we had to be very careful. If a speaker was making a remark which is too controversial, we would tell them to time out. After the main event, we, along with Senator Robin Padilla, we went to this open air center to have dinner, where we had halal food, and the good senator was kind enough to accommodate us. But this was really this moment in the screen was a highlight or a low light, depending how you interpret it. On Sunday, Dr. Richard Mata and myself, we were going around the Lucky Plaza Mall in Orchard, Singapore, where many Filipinos would gather in this mall. Many shops here are run by Filipinos. Many OFWs run salons, hair salons, gadgets, repairs, restaurants, supermarkets, small markets. And when we were walking around, many OFWs, of course, came forward to take pictures with the Duterte senators, Attorney Jimmy, Bondok Attorney J.V. Hinlo, and Dr. Mata. But this really caught my attention. While we were live streaming the event, a lady approached us, an OFW, and she was very emotional. She was crying. Josh, please, can we flash the picture of the OFW, black and white? The black and white. Yeah. this OFW approached us and was crying, very emotional, and she told us how she felt about the state of our country, what's going on with the systemic corruption of flood control projects, the unreported resurgence of heinous crimes, the open secret of the return of illegal drugs and the drug networks. And she said that it was a stab in the heart for her when the former president was kidnapped and surrendered to the ICC under this Marcos government. She is just one of many OFWs who have been neglected, disregarded, disenfranchised by the corrupt system in back home. And her voice is important, and we have to give her her voice. And this is why we fight, why we fight, why we continue to fight. It's for people like her. She also lamented the fact that back then she came back to the Philippines. It was safe for the first time because you could walk in the streets at home, walk in the streets at night very safely. But I would have the opportunity to humbly tell the vice president, after the ICC had rejected twice the requests of the defense of the former president, to maybe take the American playbook, maybe take copy, because the United States, they have the Hague Invasion Act. It's a domestic law which says that if the ICC detains or arrests any US citizen or US service member, military, they would immediately, it authorizes the US president to secure the detained US citizen by any means, military action, even invading the Netherlands. And I think we could take a page out of that, and I would humbly ask the vice president to submit to the vice president that we cannot be always on the defense. These are unelected European foreigners who have no jurisdiction over this country or any of its citizens in the first place. And I think we have to be on the offense now and say sovereignty is non-negotiable. You do not have sovereignty over the person. We have our own justice system. And if you continue to insist that you have, and if you continue to favor the prosecution in this legal trial, then we might have no choice but to go on the offense. That's what I would tell her. Of course, and then finally, the last day, I went to the airport to catch my flight. I was amazed by how convenient the whole process was. Less than 30 minutes, you go in the airport, you get your boarding pass, self-check-in, there's a machine. You go into immigration, less than 5 minutes, and then you just wait for your flight. Then the contrast couldn't be any clearer. You come back here in the Philippines, in NAIA, or the Manila International Airport, and the difference is night and day. Just waiting for the luggage would take you 30 minutes to an hour. The whole process is cumbersome. Overall, what I have learned and what I have observed is in Singapore, they don't pay too much. They don't dwell on partisan debates, on heated politicization, but instead strong leaders who have political wills for rapid development and growth. And I can never forget the wisdom that was said recently by Singapore, the new Prime Minister Lawrence Wong. We are all acutely aware that the Philippines and China, we face challenges, but what the Singaporean Prime Minister Wong reminded us, this is true Oriental wisdom, that you should not let external actors exploit the differences between you and your neighbors. And hopefully, the Vice President is conscious of this fact that our enemies are not just domestic, but there's always a hidden hand and it's geopolitical. And it's important for us to have a consciousness of who we really are, not just Filipinos, but also citizens of this region, of the global south, and really of the world. And let us continue to work for an equitable distribution of resources for our people and in the region, for a win-win solution to approach the problems and mutual development. And in my opinion, it's not under this current dispensation, we cannot achieve that. And I think the only hope for us to restore an independent foreign policy, to have genuine agrarian reform and peace and order, which is the prerequisite for development, is in 2028 when our beloved Vice President is the Chief Executive of our land. Thank you very much.
You. So we'll now go to question and answers. Hello? Let's rearrange. Okay, there are some questions from the audience. Any questions from the YouTube and the others? Okay, while we're looking at over, here's a question. In what way should the Philippines adjust its foreign investment policies to better attract high quality, sustainable Chinese investments? Well, I think Frederick Go, the one assigned by the President to do trade talks, would be in a better position to answer this question. But we do not see anything coming out of the trade negotiator that is improving our trade prospect. Well, it's just basically going back to the one basic proposition that we have and always have: repair our relationship with the People's Republic of China and improve the atmosphere where trade can grow again. The second question is, how might regional tensions in the South China Sea affect the Philippines' ability to benefit from China's economic? First of all, there are no regional tensions. There are localized tensions, like the tension between China and the Philippines because of the initiatives of the Philippines complying with the assertive transparency policy of the United States of America, which we have been explaining for the past 3 years in particular, but of course the pivot to Asia of the United States since 2011, Obama's announcement in 2011. So this is the background for the so-called regional tension. It is not tension amongst the regional members, amongst the major countries of the region, but it is just tension created by the United States of America. What should Philippine policymakers or business actors do to maximize benefit? Well, I think the Philippine business sector is relating with the Chinese business sector and investors. As we can see, BYD is I think invested in the Philippines with the Ayala Group and so on. But this is not benefiting really the population and the Philippine economy. It has to go broader and deeper than that. And I do not see prospects of major improvement under Bongbong Marcos, especially after the presentation of Paglinawan, which displays and exposes the puppetry of the Bongbong Marcos with the American agenda. When I say American agenda, that's not necessarily Trump's agenda, because Trump is quiet about Philippine-China relations. In fact, again quoted by Kaado a while ago, when Bongbong Marcos visited Trump advised the Philippines or Bongbong Marcos to have better relations with China. But we are in a dilemma because the President of the Republic of the Philippines is not telling us the truth about his situation. How might deeper economic integration with China under the 15th five-year plan affect Philippines' alignment or policy space with other strategic partners such as the United States and Japan? Well, as we can see, if we do try that, then we just have to face up to the need to reassert the independent foreign policy and the neutrality that is one of the fundamental planks of the ASEAN. I see no possibility yet, but I have mentioned that there are positive steps being taken by conscientious professional government diplomats such as Jaime Flor Cruz, Des Lazaro of the Department of Foreign Affairs, in pushing, at least in small steps, such projects such as the restoration of the e-visa, which is still far from what is required to restore the return of the Chinese tourists, but it is one big step that has been taken. Likewise, the DFA has reported to be initiating talks between the Chinese Coast Guard and the Philippine Coast Guard over the maritime concerns. So we are not able to comment on this further because we have just read the reports that this is ongoing, and we can probably elaborate more on it if it does come about. Any questions kay Kaado and Danny? Let's see, can you see the questions? Yeah.
Tama ba ang ginagawa ng administrasyon Marcos sa lantaran ng pagsika sa China? And yan, na mas mainam ba ang gaan ito sa
Alam niyo, yung ginawa ni Bongbong Marcos dyan sa ASEAN, na lantarang hindi hinahanap ko yung aking Facebook. Lantarang iniinsulto isa sa mga invited guests ng ASEAN meeting, which is China. And as Paglinawan is reported, has caused the Philippines to be the pariah of ASEAN. But I don't know if Kad Joshua can access the Straits Times slide natin, no? Where commentary from the Straits Times by Shannon Teo, and I quote him here, the slide. Prime Minister Anwar downplayed the significance of overlapping claims in the South China Sea. Quote, I find it difficult to comprehend why it is highlighted as a major issue. It tends to be exaggerated, sabi ni Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, as a serious and explosive matter. This is written by Straits Times columnist Shannon Teo in the October 28 and updated October 29 issue of the Straits Times. So ito ay patama kay Bongbong Marcos. Hindi naman binanggit si Bongbong, siyempre diplomates or lengguaheng diplomatiko po ito. But the Philippines will have a hard time as chair of the ASEAN, and ASEAN will have a hard time with Philippines as chair in this 2026-2027. Yes?
Magkakaroon ba ng epekto? Kasi di ba isinangin ngayon kay Marcos? Magkakaroon ba ito ng epekto knowing, alam naman ng mga bansa na nandun sa ASEAN Summit, na ganito yung kanyang tirada o pagtingin sa animo kalaban ng Pilipinas at China. Magkakaroon ba ito ng epekto sa ASEAN countries?
Well, sa aking assessment po, at naisulat ko na po ito, nabanggit ko na po sa aking mga artikulo, na isa sa mga intensyon ng Amerika po ay wasakin ng ASEAN. Wasagin ng ASEAN. Dahil po ito ay hadlang sa mga plano ng Estados Unidos sa kanilang Indo-Pacific idea. Ano? So, pagmamasdan po natin at babantayan po natin kung ano mga gagawin ni Bongbong Marcos dito sa mga darating na panahon tungkol sa ASEAN bilang chairman. But I'm not expecting an easy time for Bongbong Marcos nor for the ASEAN countries. But the hope is that the vast majority of the now 11 countries, I think Timor-Leste has been accepted as a former member. I'm not sure about that yet, I'm not updated. Pero 11 bansa na at iisa lang po ang Pilipinas dyan. At lahat ng ibang mga bansa sa ASEAN ay masasabi nating pro-China, malinaw po pro-China. Dahil we can get quotes from Lee Hsien Loong, former Singapore Prime Minister. You can get direct quotes from Anwar Ibrahim, Prime Minister ng Malaysia, that China is their friend, China is a benefit to them. Malinaw po yan. So, unfortunately, the Philippines is in a dilemma, in a quandary. Tayo tinulak po nitong si Bongbong Marcos sa quicksand. But I always try to be hopeful that tulad ng e-visa, nakita naman natin meron namang gumagawa ng tama. Tingnan natin po, hindi pa po tapos talaga ang story ni Bongbong Marcos po. Dahil po nakikita natin, siya ay nasa gitna po ng napakalaking krisis politikal. Hindi biro po, kaya po ang hinahanap po nila Martin Romualdez, Brownell. Kaya po, kita naman natin, halos walang araw na lumilipas na hindi nagsasalita sila Brownell, Teodoro, at ibang mga opisyalis ng Bongbong Marcos government na yung kudeta masama, and so on and so forth. So, kita, malinaw po, nasa krisis sila.
Clarification dito. Yung po bang mga bansa na kasabi dito na matended sa ASEAN Summit, majority po ba o may alam po ba kayong bilang kung sila yung mga kasama din o kasabi din sa na osmane sa BRICS? Okay.
Well, I'm aware that Indonesia is part of BRICS, Malaysia, Thailand. Offhand, I cannot remember the other. At least 5. Vietnam. At least 5. But we can check the details.
Question goes to Kaado. Kanina Kaado, sabi mo kanina, habang pinagmamalaki ni Marcos yung pakikipagkaya sa US, si Trump naman ay nagbigay ng benepisyo sa ibang bansa, pero hindi sa Pilipinas. So, ang tanong ay, despite na meron po tayong Mutual Defense Treaty o EDCA basis ang Estados Unidos, parang hindi naging kapakit-pakinabang pa to sa atin. Kasi lahat sila, kumbaga, nag-giveaway sa tariff, binigyan ng ano ng Estados Unidos, pero Pilipinas, taas pa. Diba? Any comment?
Una, yung background na tanong kanina, kasi sasagutin ko na rin yan dahil may tanong din dito na how might Marcos incident affect future ASEAN plus 3 engagements or ASEAN's credibility as a neutral platform for dialogue? And how has President Marcos Jr.'s act during the APT meeting affected the Philippines' diplomatic standing with China, Japan, and Korea? Alam niyo, napakahirap sagutin eh. Because under the leadership of Marcos, what can Marcos really offer ASEAN? These are 10 other countries. Eh kung yung Pilipinas, hindi na niya maayos. At ang kaguluhan dito sa ating bansa ay palaki ng palaki. Na siya rin naman ang nag-create. Wala namang ibang may kasalanan dyan, kundi siya rin. Napakahirap sagutin kung ano ang pwedeng maging expectation setting pag siya na namumuno sa ASEAN. Kaya para sa akin, yung leadership natin dyan eh, kung tatanungin mo, sabagay, hindi na ako pwede maging Pangulo ng Pilipinas. Kung tatanungin mo, sa dami ng problema natin dito sa Pilipinas, in fact, dati, isang malaking problema yung economic, yung inflation. Tatapos lang ang September 27 Pulse Asia Survey. Aba, umabot pang pangalawa. Yun ang korupsyon. So, imbes na isang demonyo ang ating kinakalaban dito sa loob ng ating bansa, naging 2 demonyo. At ang proberbya at tanong dito sa loob natin ay nasaan ang Pangulo? Marami rin nagtaka kung nasa ang Pangulo sa ASEAN plus Japan. Dahil nung magkuha na ng litrato ay nawawala ang Pangulo. At ang sabi ni Auntie Claire, yung lukaran sa Malacanang, ay may inaasikaso daw tungkol sa bilateral issue sa United Nations. Alam mo, pag sinabi mong United Nations, Auntie Claire, walang bilateral dyan. Lahat yan multilateral. So, nangangahulugan lamang na gulong-gulungan na rin. In fact, humihingi ka na ng tulong, di ba? Sa taong bayan. Tulungan natin ang ating Pangulo. Sa salitang Ingles, help! Ikaw na, naramdaman mo na rin ang declare na na medyo mabigat na talaga ang nasa yung sinapupunan. Tapos, Ang atensyon ng ating Pangulo, wala rin sa dalawang diablo na dapat nating katayin, kundi nandito kay Putin. 4% lang yung protecting national territory. 4%. Samantalang yung dalawang dambuhala ay halos magkapareho na sa from 56 to 70%. Pero ang atensyon ng Pangulo nandun sa 4%. Sa kanyang West Philippine Sea. So talagang malabo, di ba? Sabi ko nga, kung ako ang nasa kanyang, nag-pass na lang muna sana. Nag-pass na lang muna ako sa 2027. Crown rule din naman yan eh. Noong ang Myanmar, nagkaroon ng problema internally. If you remember, Myanmar passed. But not Marcos. Dahil iba ang agenda.
Ang may dadagdag ko diyan kasi Kado, mukhang may assignment sa Amerikano si Bongbong. So,
Meron siyang mission. Inamin naman niya kanina, di ba? Yung joint vision niya sa US on how to run ASEAN. Di ba? Nireveal ko sa inyo yun. From his own speech, binulgar niya.
How can he propose to run ASEAN when he cannot even run his own government?
Yeah.
Third question, kanina nabanggit ninyo yung plano ng Amerika, ng Estados Unidos, na guluhin ang ASEAN.
Yes.
Ano ang magiging role ng Pilipinas?
Ang una-una ang aking basihan, several articles emanating from the West. No, I don't have it right now, but I can revisit them and bring it to you. Dito naman natin nakikita na sumusunod siya sa agenda ng Amerikano. Instead of Asia-Pacific, Indo-Pacific ang mga ginagamit niya na term, ang kanyang tinataguyod in his own words ay rules-based order at hindi international law ng United Nations. So yan ay mga malinaw na ebidensya na siya ay tumatahak ng agenda ng Estados Unidos. Now again, I repeat, Trump's agenda is not the agenda of the United States of America. May kaibahan yan. May conflict din sa loob ng Estados Unidos. But ang peligro po talaga sa atin ay yung deep state. I have to use the term. There is no other term. Kado, anything you want to add there?
Kung ma-point out yung Typhoon weapon system na capable ng launching ng Tomahawk, which is an offensive weapon. Ang unang naging pananaw ko doon, because it can travel 1,500 to 2,500 kilometers, ay counterpoise against China. Pero ngayon, hindi na ako sigurado eh. Kasi yung 2,500, pwede mo rin itapat sa Thailand, sa Vietnam, sa Cambodia, sa Laos, sa Indonesia, sa Malaysia, sa ilalim, sa Singapore.
So very strategic.
Region yun.
Yeah.
So, yung mga Typhoon missile weapon system is really for China or for ASEAN? Naisip niyo ba yun? Bakit? Kasi hindi naman pwedeng gamitin ng Pilipinas yung Typhoon missile system na yun eh. Yung Tomahawk against China. Hindi po pwede po mag-launch towards the north. Bigay ko sa inyo ang factotum. Unang-una, kaya-kaya ng Beidou system ng China ang GPS guidance ng Tomahawk. So pag-launch pa lang, hindi pa lumalabas ng Pilipinas yung Tomahawk, turete na yan. Pwedeng maturete na yan. Pero ano ang consequence if we launch northwards? Natatandaan niyo ba na nag-reaction din yung North Korea dyan?
Even Russia.
Ang response ng China and North Korea, paring parehas. Dongfeng 17 at saka Dongfeng 27 sa China, Hwasong 8 sa North Korea. Hindi ako masyadong takot yan eh. Dahil, ano yan eh, arrow. Rifle yan. Hindi yan shotgun. Ang kinatatakot ko, ang defense system ng Russia, even though it is 3,500 kilometers away, ibig mo ba sabihin, pag nag-launch ka pa norte, hindi mo matetrete ng security ng Russia. And Russia has an automatic response system. And anything can happen. Anong gagamitin ng Russia? Avant-garde. Avant-garde is capable of Mach 27 speed. Malayo siya, pero it can reach the Philippines, anywhere in the Philippines in 10 minutes. 10 minutes! Malayo ang Russia. It has 16 warheads, each one with a multiple targeted re-entry vehicle. In other words, hypersonic that can change the trajectory, can change destination, can change target,
Mid-flight.
mid-flight. 16 9 lang ang EDCA bases. So meron pa siyang 7. Siguro for Clark, Subic, Zamboanga, Palawan, and Batanes. Di ba?
Senator Ivy said we have 25. There's 25 EDCA sites in the Philippines.
So isang avant-garde lang, eh hindi ko na alam kung may sana naman may nakatutok sa Malacanang doon. Habang si Marcos ang presidente. Para tapos ang problema natin.
Technical clarification lang. Paki-define yung Typhoon missile system at yung Tomahawk na binabanggit ninyo para hindi marindi yung
Ang Typhoon missile weapon system is a launch system. Kompleto yan. May launcher, may communications, may radar, guidance system, etc.
Ang Tomahawk is the warhead.
Dalawa ang pwedeng i-launch ng Typhoon weapon system. Yung SM-6, which is a defensive weapon. Yung may incoming, pwede niyang intercept. Pero niya lang Israel, napaka-effective niya. Yung SM-6 na yan. Why? Because it is almost, it can go from Mach 2 to Mach 5. Pero ang Typhoon missile system, pag nag-launch ng Tomahawk, that is a subsonic. Wala pang Mach 1 yan. Below the speed of sound yan. But, ang sikreto ng Tomahawk, it can fly following the contour of the terrain. Kaya napakahirap interceptin. And, malayo. It can carry conventional or nuclear weapon. Yung extent niya can go up to between 1,500 to 2,500, depende sa model na bibili mo. So yung isa SM-6 defensive, yung Tomahawk offensive. Wala naman tayo yan. Pero Japan, di ba sinabi ko kanina, order ng 400? O baka some of those are intended for
Yeah.
Japan's
Yeah.
military aid to the Philippines. We don't know.
If
We don't know what's in the minds of these people.
If I may return the discussion to the concerns of the Philippines with regard to these weapons of war, I don't know if Joshua can focus on two issues from the slides from our show Wednesday night. No? Number one, the missile storage facility in Lapu-Lapu City. Na-update ba kayo diyan? Naging malaking issue sa Lapu-Lapu City po ito dahil po umami ng mayor ng Lapu-Lapu, si Mayor Chan. I forget her full name. Yan, nandiyan na ako. Lapu-Lapu City Mayor Maria Cynthia Chan addressed concerns about the security and safety aspects of a publicized missile storage facility at the Naval Forces Central NAVFORCENT base. Chan also acknowledged that the presence of both an air base and the NAVFORCENT headquarters in Lapu-Lapu City makes it a potential target. So, marami pong mga peligong ganyan po ang lumilitaw ngayon sa Pilipinas. At the other one is ano ba yung isa, Joshua? Cagayan de Oro. I don't know if you can find our slide there. But I was interviewed by Cagayan de Oro Bombo Radio. And sila ang nag-inform sa akin na nagkaroon ng nuclear contamination discussion sa Seda Hotel, parang seminar sa Cagayan de Oro. So, what is happening? What are they preparing the country for? Diba? So, ayan po. This is the report of Cathy Cruz. And in the interview, I was informed by Bombo Radio anchor Lawrence that they are very concerned about the report that in a hotel in Cagayan de Oro, Seda Hotel, and in relation to the Lumbia Airport, they discussed the dangers of the nuclear contamination. So ito po ang mga balita na importante po in connection with these defense issues, security issues. But let me go back to the main topics again as a summary. It's now 11 o'clock. The 15th, China's 15th 5-year economic and social plan and how the Philippines should take advantage of it. Number 2, ASEAN meeting summit and the poor performance of Bongbong Marcos there, and of course the Sara Duterte trip to the OFWs in Singapore. Now, let me stress that the positive developments in the meeting between Trump and Xi, for example, where the trade tensions have calmed down, and apparently President Trump understood the message from China, from President Xi Jinping, stated, if I may paraphrase, that the world is big enough for the United States and China to pursue their goals and grow, and that there is nothing that stops them from cooperation. But both sides also are preparing for whatever worse that will come. For example, we just got news now that Trump has already authorized Trump orders nuclear testing resumption ahead of Xi talks. No? So that's one. At the same time, on the Chinese part naman, I just received the report by Dr. Nadia Helmi that China declares Taiwan Restoration Day, October 25 of every year as Taiwan Restoration Day, reinforcing its reunification claim over Taiwan. So while positive pictures are beginning to appear or surface from the from talks, the conflict continues as an undercurrent to everything that's going on. Anyway, back to Danny and Ado. Any questions pa?
Sir,
Yeah.
Sir, ano po masabi niyo sa plano ng leader na isama sa curriculum sa mga paralang issue sa Philippines?
Well, matagal na po yung plano na ma-brainwash pati ang mga kabataan doon sa mga balu-baluktot na interpretasyon ng bongbong government dito. No? So, yan po ay kasama sa agenda ng Amerikano rin. Nasabi ko sa interview sa akin ng SMNI na kasama po talaga sa agenda ng Amerikano kung may tinatarget silang gagamitin na bansa sa proxy war, naguluhin ang bansa tulad ng ginagawa nila sa Pilipinas. But far, far advanced po sila. In Ukraine, nagkaroon po ng eleksyon noong 2014, nagkaroon ng isang neutral na leader, si Yanukovych, kinudeta. At pinalakas ang mga neo-Nazi element para magkagulo nga ang bansa. And winawasak ang kanilang ekonomiya. Lalong mahirap ang bansa, lalong madali pong itulak sa anumang gusto ng Amerikano tulad ng gera.
Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
Divide and conquer, no? Dito sa Pilipinas, nagkaroon na po ng coup d'etat noong 2023, Pebrero. Dahil po, tandaan natin po, yung pagkapanalo ni Bongbong Marcos ay sa ilalim ng unit team. Diba, pagkakaisa ng Duterte at Marcos. Yun ang gobyerno dapat. Pero nung nag-pivot sa Amerika si Bongbong Marcos, parang coup d'etat na rin yun. Nung kasunduan ng Duterte at Marcos. No? So yun ang coup d'etat ng Amerikano. At nakita po natin after that, nagkawatak-watak na po ang bansa. No? Pinatindi ang paghahati-hati ng mga paksyon sa lipunan. And yung isa sa mga long-term projects yun po, pati yung mga kabataan po talaga ma-inject nitong mga maling interpretasyon sa West Philippine Sea. Ano? At paigtingin ng kalit sa China, imbis na yung naareglo na ni Duterte at ng ibang mga matinong liderato na magkaroon ng win-win solution. Ano ang win-win solution? Naalala mo? Joint venture. Doon nagsimula na po doon sa kasunduan na 60-40 arrangement na pinirmahan na MOU ni Duterte at ni President Xi Jinping noong 2017 na magkakaroon ng joint exploration and exploitation ng rectobank oil and gas. Yun lang solusyon at hindi gera. Pero hindi po yan maririnig sa mga ituturo sa mga paaral na yan. Ang magiging conclusion ng mga bata ay napakasama naman ng China at walang solusyon kundi tanggapin na yung away at gera. Kado, you have anything to add, Danny?
Gusto ko lang balikan dahil matapos yung ASEAN, nag-press conference si Bongbong Marcos. At doon sa press conference, tinanong siya, no? Why did he call out China's plans to establish a nature reserve in Bajo de Masinloc? Ang sagot niya, I just laid out the facts. And dito medyo may problema tayo. Kasi mukhang may perception problem ang ating Pangulo. Una na kasi sinabi, China clearly violates Philippine sovereignty. In other words, he's under the impression that we are still in effective control of Scarborough Shoal, Bajo de Masinloc. Huwag yan daw. Nagulat ako, no? Kasi nasa likod lang yan si Teresa Lazaro. Anong pinakahawakan nito? Sa kolong ni Bubi Tiglao, nung 29 ba? At saka kanina, diniscuss niya itong fake news na kinakalat ni Antonio Carpio. Na sa pamamagitan daw, aminado na si Antonio Carpio na sa Treaty of Paris, if we could show Joshua yung treaty limits to sa aking PowerPoint. Mukhang aminado na si Carpio na pagdating sa 1898 Treaty of Paris, nasa labas talaga ang Scarborough Shoal. Why? Kasi specified sa Treaty of Paris yung 118 degrees longitude. Ayan. And sa kaliwa, 118 ang ating limit, labas ng 9 nautical miles ang Scarborough Shoal. So dito talagang specific, hindi pwedeng sabihin na kasama yan sa Treaty of Paris. Pero, sa pangalawang mapa, meron tayong 3 treaty yan eh. Ang pangalawang treaty was 2 years after dahil nakita ng mga Amerikano na doon sa binili nila na $20 million na nagkaroon ng treaty limits na ganito ay hindi pala naisama yung ibang mga isla na out of a signed protocol noong 1885 between Britain and Spain ay ibinigay ng Britain, pinagkaloob ng Britain sa Spain. At ito ang Cagayan de Sulu at saka Cebu. So yung kaliwa, yung yellow, was the 1898. Yung addendum, ayun, isinama yung Cagayan de Sulu. At yan ang chismis na kinakalat ni Carpio. Bakit? To further exacerbate this position, Carpio argues that while Bajo de Masinloc was not part of the first treaty, he says it is part of the second treaty. As quote, kinote pa niya the Treaty of Washington of 1900. Ito ang quotation niya. Spain relinquishes to the U.S. all title and claim of title which she may have had at the time of the conclusion of the Treaty of Paris to any and all islands belonging to the Philippine archipelago lying outside. Hoy! Lying outside yung Bajo de Masinloc. Described in Article 3 of that treaty. Pero tumigil to si Carpio. Hindi niya tinuloy yung quotation. Ano yung quotation? And particularly to the islands of Cagayan, de Sulu, and Cebu and their dependency. You know, I'm sorry to confirm that the former Associate Justice of Supreme Court is often intellectually dishonest. I accuse Carpio of what he has been actually known for lack of integrity in the pursuit of the communication of ideas involving intentional manipulation, misrepresentation, selectivity, or omission of facts or evidence to support a predetermined conclusion niya rather than seek the truth. So yun yung kinokorek. So yung Bilarte map niya talagang wala naman yun eh. Kasi kung talagang totoo na sa Bilarte map kasama ang Baho de Masinloc, eh bakit sa bentahan? Hindi ba bentahan? Hindi sinama nung ibenta ng Spain.
Pero bakit sa tingin nyo mahalaga kay yung patuloy na sisiwalat ang pasinumali niya ng mga pakayat ng China dito sa servers?
Kasi si Antonio Carpio ang ahente ng mga oligarko na gustong magmina ng langis at gaas dyan sa Rimba. Yung tinasabi natin noon ng Forum Energy, PXP Mining. At sila ang kasabwat ng Center for Strategic and International
Joshua, can you flash
Studies.
the Manny Pangilinan slide? Kung kaya mo hanapin.
Malaking pera ito eh.
Ito pa rin
Ba't sila nakakuha niya? Eh, malamang 10% na naman bibigay sa atin. Pero sa offer ng China, 60% tayo. Kaya gumagawa sila ng paraan para yung wisyo mabalik doon sa dati.
si Manny Pangilinan ay dami ng mga Amerikano. At may kumpanya sila dito na Forum Energy at PXP Energy. No?
So, yung dalawang features na yan, binayaran $100,000. Yung dalawang group, small islands na yun. Kasama dyan Baho de Masinloc, wala namang group. Eh kung kasama, dapat particularly Cagayan de Sulu, Sibuto, at Baho de Masinloc. Eh wala naman yung Baho de Masinloc doon. Pangalawa, hindi ba alam ng presidente natin yung 2012 standoff kung saan noong Abril tayo ang nanggulo sa mga nangingisda dyan. Inaresto ng BRP, Gregorio del Pilar, yung mga fishermen, about 8 fishing ships ng China. At inabot ang girian hanggang June 15. Noong June 15, umalis ang lahat ng barkong Pilipino. Hindi umalis ang China. Kaya hanggang ngayon, for the past how many years? 13 years. China has effective control of Scarborough Shoal. Yung kanina, sinumiti na ng China noong December 10, 2004. Ayan. Ayan ang United Nations published China's official baselines ng Baho de Masinloc. Tapos na sila sa survey. Punot dulo lahat ng anggulo ng Scarborough Shoal na survey na nila. Ano ang survey natin? Wala. Ano ang sinamit natin sa UN? Wala. Ano ang compliance natin? Wala. Pero, meron tayong sinumite na 245 protests. Ang dali natin sa reklamo eh. We don't do our homework. Ayan o. United Nations Convention on the Laws of the Seas. Ayan. In compliance with the document signed on December 10, 1982 sa Montego Bay. Diniposito na ng China.
At yung pinapahanap kong slide, hindi pa makita, Buboy, para mapagot ko yung tanong ni Buboy. Nung
Yeah.
yan, tingnan mo yan. Noong 2014, inalok ni Manny Pangilinan sa China na ipalit ang Kalayaan Island Group para sa Rectobank, Reed Bank, Rectobank Oil and Gas Resources. Yan po. Business tycoon Manuel Pangilinan offered China's state-owned oil firm access to the Spratlys group of islands in the South China Sea, over which the Philippines has a territorial claim, although he had no legal capacity to do. Pangilinan headline, Pangilinan offers Spratlys to Chinese oil firm in Reed Bank talks. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, sa palagay ni Manny Pangilinan, kaya niya i-swing ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas na ibigay ang Spratlys sa China kapalit nung control ng China sa Reed Bank or Recto Bank. Naintindihan mo yun, boy?
Yes, sir.
That is the key. Tayo lang talagang nag-record po dito dahil huli siya dito.
Exchange deal.
And sa totoo lang, kontrolado nila Manny Pangilinan through the US-Philippine Society.
US Philippines.
Ha?
US Philippines.
US-Philippine Society, ano sabi ko?
Philippines.
Okay. US-Philippine Society, na co-chair ni Manny Pangilinan, in John Negro Ponce, dating CIA. Yan ang nasa ilalim po ng lahat ng mga nangyayari diyan sa issue niya.
Ang pangalawang gusto kong i-bring up na sinabi ng Pangulo, that China clearly violates fishing rights of the Filipino people. Ito po ay napakalaking kabalintunan. What China does not tolerate are the forays of Philippine Coast Guard and the Bureau of Fisheries and Natural Resources who parks in the area to distribute supplies to fishermen. Bakit hindi mo ibigay yung supply ng fishermen bago sila pumalaot? And that is in violation of innocent passage sa UNCLOS, collecting information, propaganda, unloading of any commodity, and other activities that having direct bearing on passage. Pag pumasok ka dyan, pwede naman. Pero pasok, diretso labas. Pagka nag-merienda ka pa dyan, nag-distribute ka pa dyan ng maleta ng mga ayuda,
Yeah,
itataboy ka ng China.
at saka may dagdag ko, kung pinagbabawalan ng China yung pangingisda ng Pilipino na mga ngisda doon, bakit nandun sila at kailangan puntahan ng Philippine Coast Guard at BIFAR doon sa lugar na yon na magbigay ng ayuda, gasolina, diesel. Eh, nandoon na nga sila eh. Hindi nga pinagbabawal, kaya nandoon sila eh. Kaya doon pinupuntahan ng Philippine Coast Guard. Diba? Andun yung mga mangingisda eh. So, napakalinaw yung panluloko, but
Lagi nilang kinakabit yung fishermen doon sa mga government vehicles.
Hindi ba ito,
Vessels pala.
hindi ba ito isang provocative action?
well, talaga naman.
Hindi na innocent passage eh.
Kaya walang maniniwala sa mundo sa mga linya nila Tariela ng PCG at saka walang maniniwala.
Ni isang ASEAN member doon sa 10. Pangalawa, sa arbitral award, sinabi, traditional fishing rights are not absolute or impervious to regulation because careful regulation of traditional fishing may be necessary for conservation and to restrict environmentally harmful practices. So kung mangingitlog na yung mga isda, teka muna, recess muna tayo. Pag nangitlog na sila, lumalaki na sila, pumapalaot na sila, doon yung hulihin. Di ba? Ano pa sabi ng arbitral award? Customary international law in this respect does not restrict the coastal state from reasonable regulation, nor would it prevent the coastal state from assessing the scope of traditional fishing. Kung hindi man sila pinapapasok, may rason May regulasyon.
Ang lugar na hindi pinapapasok ang mga fishermen, Chinese or
Lagoon.
yung lagoon.
Hindi.
Dahil
Kasi
protected
Philippine
sanctuary yan, sanctuary ng
Breeding ground ng mga isda.
pangitlugan ng mga isla. Na in 2019, if I'm not mistaken about the year, si Duterte, may headline tayo dyan, nasa record natin yan, na nag-declare din that the Philippines is declaring it as a fish sanctuary. Hindi lang nagawa ng direktiba dahil siya, siyempre, may mga sabotahe na naman sa ilalim ni Duterte.
Pero ako wala akong nakitang water cannon na fisherman, ha? Meron ba kayo nakita? Ha? Anyway, ano yung susunod ko slide, Joshua? After yung UN deposit ng baselines. So, yan po mga kabansano. Ito, ang posisyon ni Anwar Ibrahim. We are an independent nation. Malaysia, ibig sabihin. We do not want to be dictated by any force. They should not preclude us from being friendly to one of our important neighbors. And if they have problems with China, they should not impose it upon us. We do not have a problem with China. Hindi na po natin ipi-play yung video. Nandun po yung video kung gusto yung panoorin dahil video yan. Tinapos ni Anwar Ibrahim ang ASEAN Plus 3 ASEAN Summit. Sino ang pinangalan? Closing the 47th Asian Summit, the Malaysian Prime Minister quotes Jose Rizal in El Filibusterismo. Quote, "It is a useless life that is not consecrated to a great ideal. It is like a stone wasted on the field without becoming part of any edifice." Aba, mukhang pinatatamaan si Marcos, ha? Mga-apat na taon na, wala pang edifice na itatayo. Kaya ang aking parting shot, and maybe my last position today, ay yun naman sumagot si Rizal. Ito ho ang sagot ni Rizal, no, sa kanyang libingan. Dahil Malaysian pa ang nagbigay pugay sa kanya. Nagbigay po ng premonition si Jose Rizal sa next people power. Justice is the foremost virtue of the civilizing races. It subdues the barbarous nations, while injustice arouses the weakest. Ayan na.
11:39.
Pati si Rizal nakakaramdam na sa kanyang libingan ng people power, mga kababayan. Kaya, paring hindi na rin magtagal ang ating mga problema sa buhay. At sana naman, pakinggan tayo ng Panginoon na maibsa na ang paghihirap, lalo na ng taong bayan na hirap na po sa kanilang pang-araw-araw na gastusin at pamumuhay, pagpapadala ng kanilang mga anak sa eskwela, at pag bumabaha, kailangan sumakay pa sa batya para makarating sa paaralan ang mga kabataan. Pang-araw-araw na pamalingke, pagtawid buhay, pamasahe, pangmatrikula, pagkain sa hapag-kainan. At sana naman magkaroon tayo ng isang liderato na titingnan uli ito katulad ng pagtugon ng dati nating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte para sa kalagayan ng mga mamamayan. We're not looking for a socialite. We're not looking for a braggart. We're not looking for somebody who is absent pag nag-roll call, ang gusto natin ay isang mamumuno na sasagutin lahat ang ating pangangailangan. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Kado. We're now going to end the today's forum. Again, thank you to everyone who joined us here in person, the press, those watching us in Facebook, in YouTube, and Zoom, and also the replay. Thank you again to Kamentong Laurel, Kado Paglinawan, for your enlightenment. Let us continue to enlighten the Filipino people and be conscious of our role in promoting knowledge about the global South and championing an independent foreign policy and pursuing better relations with China and for the good of our country and the good of our region. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Diba, hindi mo na yung presidente mo.